paper article and this very sort of this is a totally a standardized academic presentation.
Yes.
But I was very impressed and very I was my feeling just changed when I listened to his lecture last time, and he said that I'm also a Buddhist now. I have seen something very different in Buddhism that I couldn't see all my life in other religions, even my own religion, Christianity. He said. So these things of talk should actually take place over and over again. But normally those invited for this lecture just actually give academic presentation, where after the lecture is over, people, audience asks questions, and the presenter also gives answer. But in the long run, or at the end of the lecture, they'll get nothing as far as practice is concerned.
Exactly.
So they just their actually knowledge. Actually, they widen their knowledge. That's all. But as you said, Buddhism is a practice. It's a practical religion. Actually, there should not be ism in when we say Buddhism. But anyhow, there is something we need to identify Buddhism from other religions.
Yes.
Or distinguish Buddhism from other. That's why we call Buddhism. Otherwise, this is the teaching of Lord Buddha, and we just have to satisfy ourselves with this definition. So when we actually describe these four heavenly abodes, so to speak, or Brahmaviharas, and they are just actually arranged in a sequential way. First of all, there must be love, the universal love, so to speak, so that we do not discriminate actually the friends from the enemies and the stranger ones. And it is generally said that there are three kinds of sentient beings, and friends, enemies, and strangers. So we normally, as said, in Buddhism, I also have read this metaphor many times, metaphor or so this example many times. Whenever love is illustrated, then illustration of mother actually showing her love to her only child is the most typical metaphor given to show the quality of love. But because is this sequential, first actually it is, I also read somewhere, first of all we need equanimity. We first should actually have that kind of feeling. Right now we are very uptight, and we only love those who have done something very good to us in the past. But those who actually insulted us in front of everybody, we just regard them as our deadliest enemy. So we normally do not have that capacity, to show our love to that enemy, because he or she has done very terrible thing, in our life. But is this the sequential order, or we can practice it randomly?
Oh, that's a very good question, because as far as the sequence of upekkha coming first, but in order for me to answer that, I need to backtrack a little bit, because in the form of the three types of individuals that you mentioned, the person who's very friendly to us, the person who is an enemy, and a person who's a total stranger. What I was taught at one point was, and now I still hear some of the meditation students I get, they have come across teachers who would teach them. They're Buddhist teachers, and they're very well-intentioned, good-intentioned people, but the method of teaching lacks an understanding of human psychology and the value of emotions on us. So before you go and for example, radiate love to someone else. Radiate, I mean like to send love, loving thoughts, feelings towards someone who's an enemy. You need to get your mind prepared well enough to be able to do that, because just like the earlier mention of something like a mantra, may my enemies be well and happy. How many people can actually do that? Really?
Lip service.
Exactly. So it becomes a lip service because the intention behind it is completely not there. So before we do that, we need to be able to gradually, slowly work our way up to do that. So there are a set of instructions that I give to my students and when they first prepare. So one of the things that are absolutely not allowed for them to do is to send love to their enemies. Now that doesn't mean that they need to hate them, no. So their primary expenditure of energy, their primary focus in this practice is only to send it to one person. Well, the way I was taught from my teacher is 3 things have to be there for the qualifiers. 1, the person needs to be alive. You can write this down if you want to. The person has to be alive. 2, the person needs to be from the opposite sex or someone we don't have any sexual attraction towards. That's the second requirement. The third requirement is they need to not be related to us. So they are not blood relative. Because you might love your father, your brother, or your uncle, or somebody, or your sister, or your mother. But when you're deep in meditation, remember the 5 hindrances? They will show up. And they will use any background story to make you fall off your object. Object in this case is sending love to this person. So if it's a relative, you're going to start thinking, my cousin, that is your spiritual friend you're practicing to send love to, this one person, right? And you start remembering bad things. And if you have been a human being on this planet, no family is without any quarrels. There's always some fighting, some argument, something, somewhere. But if it's someone who's not related to you, someone like a teacher, someone that you hold in high regard, someone, maybe a friend that has been there and helped you and guided you. In Buddhism, we call them kalyana mittas, for example. That's different. And that is the only person we use for metta practice in the beginning. Now, once it becomes stronger, the metta becomes so strong, the mind is like a piece of tissue that I put inside this water. It completely becomes wet with metta. Slowly, slowly, we work them towards more people, not just one. We can introduce family members. And slowly, slowly, we introduce them to strangers, neutral people, we call them. And then finally, once the student meditator has worked with me well enough, and every day I have to sit down and ask him some questions. They need to answer those questions. And I know where they are in their practice. So as they develop and I see that their mind is becoming more and more balanced, they have more upekkha. Then I will introduce him or her to a practice where they will generate metta and send it to their enemy, one at a time. But they have graduated. It's like in high school, you don't teach someone heavy-duty calculus, trigonometry, difficult equations, or scientific principles to someone who's a child, who's in kindergarten, primary school. Similarly, upekkha, I disagree with that notion that upekkha has to be there first, because upekkha cannot be there first. It is there on its own, but we cannot get to that level starting with upekkha because we don't have it yet. We don't have an understanding. So what then the teacher is doing is allowing the student develop the sense of upekkha slowly, slowly. Because unless upekkha is there, the mind is going to be like this. Even if they are practicing very diligently metta, I show them the picture of their loved one, their spiritual friend. I take that out and put the picture of the enemy, their mind goes, whew, there's no upekkha. So that's why the mind has to gradually get stable, and I, as a meditation teacher, will work with my student to see slowly. They will talk to me, they will email me, they will ask me, this is what's happening, what can I do now? And once I know they're ready, and there are signs as a meditation instructor, you know what to look for. And I listen to their words. And then I know if they're ready, but not before they're ready. Once I've seen their upekkha is there, then I will say, okay, now go ahead and think of your enemy. So it's a gradual process.
My another question is because there are two most important factors in Buddhism as I have been taught by gurus.
Mm-hmm.
I read also in books.
Mm-hmm.
That is wisdom and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And all those three, beginning from metta and karuna and mudita, actually, those they also require wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is upekkha definitely requires wisdom, because if we do not have wisdom, we just tend to discriminate the good ones from the bad ones,
Mm-hmm.
and we spend our entire life within these kinds of discrimination,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dualistic.
Yes.
Or something like that. I am others and all these things. But upekkha is something which has to do with those thoughts which transcend these dualistic attitudes and discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So you no longer actually consider others as others.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have any kind of such kinds of dualistic notions.
Yes.
They are also, I am equal to others. And even the strangers, there is no such kind of strangers and everything. Is this true that only upekkha needs wisdom, whereas those three factors, maybe those three factors, metta, karuna and mudita, they also need wisdom, but not that necessary.
Actually, wisdom is there in all four. The level of clarity, the maturity, in fact, gets into full fruition, full blossom in the upekkha level. However, wisdom has to be there. And by the way, when we look at the second of the bojjhangas, that is wisdom. Remember from your studies in Buddhism, you will see that the Dhamma stands on three legs, powerful legs. Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Sila is the virtue, morality, discipline, precepts, the 5 precepts, or 8 or 10. The second one is Samadhi, which is mental cultivation, bhavana, which is what we were discussing today mostly. And you have the third one, which is Panya. Now, in this day and age, you have many people around the world, in fact, talking about mindfulness this. In therapy, as a therapist, I've come across a lot of people who claim to know mindfulness, or teach it now even. And what they do is basically they have stripped mindfulness away from its Buddhist roots. So now they only are looking at one of them, which is the samadhi. They have no consideration of sila. There is no mention of wisdom. Sati, or mindfulness, is there as one out of the 7. Mindfulness does not work without wisdom. One of my teachers, he always says, awareness or mindfulness is not enough. See, an example is that I give to people is, if you, me, and a cat are standing at the corner of a street and a truck or a car passes by, you, me, and the cat will be aware of the truck. You, me, and the cat will be mindful of the truck. We will not cross the street or something, or we are aware of it. But that doesn't mean that the cat has wisdom. Simply becoming aware is not everything. Now, the second of the bojjhangas is Dhammavichaya, which is everything having to do with wisdom. Remember what I asked you to do? Every once in a while, ask your mind, what is the mind doing? That is inviting panya. That is inviting an investigative quality of mind. See, metta is not blind. Karuna is not blind. Mudita is not blind. And definitely upekkha is not blind. Many people say, upekkha is like you don't care anymore. That's wrong. That's not what the Buddha talked about. Venerable Sariputta was not blind when he forgave the man. He definitely will be more careful next time. Cautious. If I'm walking down a path and I fall into a ditch, or if I'm walking on a street and I see some people who want to hurt me, I'm going to use my wisdom. Instead of saying, well, I'm equanimous, I have upekkha, so it doesn't matter to me. That's crazy. That's not practical. That's not Buddhism. So wisdom has to be there. So by me choosing to not go down this path because there's a bunch of people who want to hurt me, you're also exercising compassion towards them, because they're going to hurt me and they're going to have bad karma now. And I'm also practicing compassion towards me because I don't want to be hurt. I still have this body and it feels pain. So, just like we agreed earlier on calling Buddhism an active, not a passive path, we also have to understand that Buddhism is not blind either. So, when you see in Mahayana, and especially in Vajrayana, the path of wisdom and compassion working together, you see them more in the earlier stages within the early Nikayas, delineated clearly in step-by-step process, not lumped like you see it in Vajrayana, in the way I understand it, where wisdom and compassion work like this. So when you go to the Nikayas and you break it down, you see every single step. What leads to what? How? When? Why? Which all of these things mean you are using your wisdom. See, there's a sutta which you probably have come across in your studies here. It's called the Kalama Sutta. Kalama Sutta is the many times, many Westerners, many people who've come to Buddhism came because of the sutta. And many people who have science background, who've turned away from religions and faith-based organized religions to Buddhism because of the sutta and what it says in it. So the Buddha was invited to come to this village. Villagers were the Kalamas. And they were very intelligent in their time for people, because they had very inquisitive minds. They were very analytical. And they really listened to teachers. One of their questions was, in inviting the Buddha over, was to help them solve a problem. The problem was that because they were close to the Himalayas and many people, close to a major forest anyhow, many yogis after the monsoon season would come out and pass through their village. And as they did so, they would sit down and teach them their teachings. And all of these teachers, at one point or another, would always say, "My way is right, theirs is wrong, believe in me." So these Kalamas were confused. Which one should we believe? And now they had invited the Buddha. And the Buddha listened to them, as he always did. First, before he introduced his teaching, he listened to people's problems first. He said, "Kalamas, your confusion is adequate. That means that you have a reason. You are right in being so confused." And then he listed several things that people need to be aware of before they actually go ahead and subscribe or dedicate their lives to a teaching. He says, don't follow a teacher simply because they're charismatic, simply because of their title, because of who their lineage is that they're representing, how many disciples they have, etc. All these things he lists. None of these things he says that should be a reason why you accept their teachings. No faith, none of that. Now this was a perfect opportunity for any teacher in the Buddha's position there to say, yeah, you're right to be confused. They are wrong, I am right. He could have said that, but he didn't. And the Kalamas were smart enough to say, this is different. This teacher is different, and he's making sense. So one of the things is also, don't believe something simply because it's rationally making sense. Because Buddhism is not just about rationality. Some people mistakenly call Buddhism, it's the most rational. Yes, it is, but it's more than that. So when we're looking at teachings, we need to be also think about their applicability. So wisdom and compassion, or any of these principles, if they are not being in one way or another, truly absorbed and processed in the form of practice and understanding, it's really not going to take you far. It's going to be very intellectual and academic. You are absolutely right. But one of the things that the Buddha never engaged in was philosophical debating. He never cared for that. He would say what needs to be said. In some of the suttas you see this, simply to make a point and help the listener to break through some of the delusion. But quickly he would bring it to their personal lives, into practical application. Many times he turned away philosophers who want to just come and debate with him, saying, I'm not here to debate any philosophies. And he never put down other traditions in a sense directly. He would just point out what, common sense in a commonsensical way. So, and you have also the 10 questions which the Buddha always refused to answer. Things about, esoteric or, metaphysics, the Buddha didn't care about those things. Because if you are in pain right now, this path helps you to understand the pain, first noble truth, understand the cause of the pain, and understand that by removing the cause, you also bring about the ending of the pain. And then he showed you the way by giving you 8 different steps that you can use in order for you to really end the pain fully. The map. That's the Eightfold Path. There is no faith there. It's all about practice. And that's what makes Buddhism unique. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it. Because it has everything to do with your personal life. Personal life. And that's why Nibbana is so personal too. See, if I give you an apple, if I give you a mango, now it's not the mango season, but when the mangoes are, when I give you mango lassi, you're drinking mango lassi. It's delicious. And I've never tasted mango lassi. And you give me a cup. My friends who never tasted mango lassi, and I tasted it just now, I was like, wow. Yeah, I try to explain it to them. They never get. Until they actually taste it too. Now the difference is, the example here, the similarity rather, is that with practice, what the Buddha himself tasted and became the Buddha 2,600 years ago is still available for us to taste and see for ourselves. Ehipassiko, come and see for yourself. So each one of you is sitting there listening and trying to think and analyze and understand. I would like you to walk away understanding that it's all up to you. No one else is going to do the work for you. No guru will do that. No teacher will do that. I can't give you that. All of us are going to simply point, give you instructions, but you have to walk the path. You have to taste it for yourself, but you need to do it. And one of the best ways to do it is by applying the 4 Brahmaviharas, because they're so human. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha. See if you can introduce those into your lives in simple ways. When you wake up, before you go to sleep at night, tonight, make a decision, make a resolution. Say to yourself, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to wake up with a smile. I'm going to wake up with a smile. Before I leave my house, I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to say, I love you. I'm going to say, I forgive you for any bad things you thought or did or said. Smile and say, you look beautiful to yourself. And then walk outside the door. Go do what you need to do. You already started practicing Brahmaviharas. You are the perfect candidate to test this on. See how that's going to do to you, what it's going to do to you. Try it for one day, see how it feels. This is a very practical, pragmatic path, the Dhamma. No part of it is looking or having you look at the Dhamma on the basis of belief. That's what the Buddhist path was known. Many of the Buddha's students were tested later on by other teachers, gurus and things like that at the time of the Buddha, by Mahavira and other people. And these students, whether it was Anathapindika or Chitta, these two were householders. And they had experienced Nibbana. Anathapindika was a Sotapanna and Chitta was an Anagami. Lay, Upasaka, businessman, wife, children, lands, property, business. He was an Anagami. So one day Mahavir pulls him aside, and because he was Jain before. and he was helping the community of the Jains. But now that he was a student of the Buddha, his dana was going to the Buddha. So Mahavir did not like it, and plus he was a very famous man, so he lost one of his students to the Buddha. So he pulled him aside and he said, the Buddha said this, do you believe in that? The Buddha says this, do you believe in this? The Buddha said this. And Chitta, this man, a student of the Buddha, listened and he said, no, I don't believe. Mahavir's eyes opened like this. You don't believe? Aha! So you know that the Buddha is wrong then. And he said, no. But he said, you said you don't believe. And he said, yes, I don't believe because I have tasted it. He had tasted the Mangalasi of the Dhamma. He had tasted it himself. He experienced it. That's why the Dhamma does not require belief. It requires effort, understanding, which is wisdom. It requires practice, which requires compassion. And then you already know. I don't have to come and tell you the path is good. You already know. When you wake up in the morning, now whenever I wake up like before I even open my eyes, sometimes I'm smiling. I'm ready. In one of the Vaggas in the Dhammapada, I think it's 276 or something, Dhammapada, the Buddha says, we are the happy ones. We are the happy ones compared to others. Because you are coming from a good, solid place. So when you get up in the morning or about to leave your house, ask yourself, am I happy? Where is the mind? If you're not happy, usually the mind is holding on to something. I want something. I want things to be different. Usually that's what the mind is doing. That's why you're not happy. There's the 3 defilements there. So by you asking, where is the mind now? You settle. Put a smile on your face. Be generous with that. Before you give money to someone, give dana, give your smile first. Can you do that? That's the easiest way to practice dana. I don't need to give you diamonds to show you that I have generous heart. I can show you with my face. So I hope that helps. And if there are no more questions, are there any more questions? Yes?
We have been listening to lecture for maybe 2.5 hours now.
Ah, okay.
And actually, your lectures are kept us spellbound and we are unaware of the time.
Yes. Well, maybe that's an invitation then.